So hello, everyone. Mary Keurig with Frontrunners Innovate, and with me is my co-host and co-producer of this webinar, Dr. Erin Smith. We're both in the United States. I'm in North Carolina, and Erin is in Virginia. So we're in the South, both of us. But both of us have our experiences in working with nonprofits and in working in the education system. With Erin, that is his sort of background. So grants is more his sweet spot. Fundraising from the standpoint of nonprofit organizations is in my background. And I had almost 9 years with the Chamber of Commerce as the executive director there, which is nothing but fundraising. It's just constant fundraising. And another 8 years in a government entity that we ended up having to create a nonprofit organization to sustain extra expenses associated with a budget that we felt like the federal government was going to cut. So we ended up starting a nonprofit organization to sustain ourselves there. So that was also constant fundraising. So you get very creative when you think that somebody's going to take your money away from you. So that's kind of where I come from. And then just having been in, in education circles in professional development, I ended up having to go through 6 years of Institute for Organization Management, which is like Chamber of Commerce College, basically. And so if I didn't already have the fundraising idea in my pocket, I would have learned it there. So, and listening to all the other people and their ideas. So I feel like all the ideas I'm going to share have been done either by me or somebody that I know. And so some of these are very simplistic. Some of them won't work for you. Some of them will. There'll be some ideas maybe that you can tweak to make your own. And I try to categorize these ideas in terms of what will be the least impactful to your budget and expense-wise to produce, and the least amount of effort that you can that you would exert to be able to do them, and then to the most. And then some really kind of creative ideas that's making use of every asset that you own, because you may not realize that you have assets that you can use to create fund opportunities. So first, if you will, we are recording. We will have this available on our website, on the Frontrunners Innovate website for you later if you need to refer to it. And if you'll just kind of stay on mute until we get towards the end, then we'll try to open it up for Q&A. So the key objectives today are to create an understanding of appropriate sustainable funding in today's time and clear definitions of fundraising versus fund seeking. So it's kind of a difference there. Delivery of 25 evidence-based fundraising ideas and grant seeking tips, and that would be when Erin comes in. Attendee opportunities to network and brainstorm other ideas with each other. So in the chat, if you would like to put, who you are, what your organization is, and what country you come from, that would be awesome. So if you go ahead and do that now, and that will maybe stir up some opportunity to communicate with each other later. So if you feel like you want to put your link to your website in the chat, that would be great too. So we invite you to do that now. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to suggest to you the reason why we are putting this on is really the constant entertainment of conversation that we tend to get here at Frontrunners Innovate on in Frontrunners Development Inc., which is the company that I run that oversees Frontrunners Innovate. But the constant conversation we get from people who are looking for funds, and most of the time they're from countries where the opportunity for fundraising is very slim. And so creating a bona fide budget with sustainable funding opportunities is really tough. And so we felt like with the barrage of, help me that we keep seeing, that maybe we needed to come back and say, first of all, it's the appropriate way to look for funds when you're seeking funds. And when seeking funds means to me that you've got this budget, you're looking for $25,000 or you're looking for $10,000. And in that regard, it's more like a grant or philanthropic or, maybe a little investment or whatever that you've got going on. Most of the time, the people that I see coming at us are people who are looking for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for projects. and they literally don't even know you, and they just want to ask for that amount of money and plop it in their lap and let them go on. And what I always try to do is come back and say, first of all, my business is not that. I don't look for funds for people, and I don't have, that kind of money to plop down for any one particular project. What I do, and what I think that is the most useful thing that I can do, is help connect you with people that can help you maybe source sustainable ways of finding out, what is the root of the problem, and how can we sustain you through, through a solution that gets to the root of the problem. Aside from that, these fundraising ideas, which is more or less something to supplement your budget and hopefully on an annual basis, would be a part of a sustainable solution. Although in and of itself, if you just do one idea and you let it go, it's not really, it's just plopping a few hundred or a few $1,000s in your budget and not really helping you. So we want to get the idea across that there's an appropriate way to look for these things, to look for these opportunities and to do these things. And you really do have to do a little due diligence on that, instead of just asking people you really don't know on social media, whatever, to fund something. So there's that. And what I want to do is just go ahead and sort of dive in to the ideas. So celebrity bait, the first one is upfront expense and heavy on planning. So I'm going at it a little bit backwards. So these will be the heavy duty sorts of things. Celebrity based VIP circle. To create a VIP, very important person club around access to someone whom a specific group of people would be interested. So find a sponsor who would foot the cost of the lunch, maybe 2 to 4 times a year for that group, and then charge the group members for the annual membership. Think about major politicians, celebrities, accomplished athletes, or big name speakers as your anchor for the group. Now, this is something I did one year to put $8,000 into our budget that ended up being sustainable over several years. And I called it the Governor's Circle. And what that was all about was the fact that I used to work for the governor of our state. And I leveraged that relationship when our military base that was near us hit the closure list. And so we were trying to raise some extra funds to do some lobbying. We needed that in our budget, not only for the lobbying, but to do some other things expansion wise. And so what I did is I charged about 8 of my largest, I'd say, utility types of members. And when I say utility, that would be the electricity, that would be the telephone company, that would be, those people have infrastructure dollars and they have dollars in their budget for major marketing types of things. I asked 8 of them for $1,000. I called them my Governor's Circle. And I got the governor to agree to come to our area twice a year for a lunch with these people. And then I got media to come cover it and, that sort of thing. So we made it a big deal. Of course, when I had him in town, I also did some other things. I had youth groups meeting with him. I made it worth his while to be there, right? So that was an opportunity to put a lot of extra dollars in our budget. There's number 2 is award ceremonies. So become known as the host or a special award for your community and plan a ceremony to present the award. Then sell tickets to the ceremony, to the event. Okay. Lots of people do that very successfully. Especially if you've got somebody in your community that that's a really good speaker and that would give you their speaking time for free. You can double that up and have that speaker be there and make it really worth your while. Number 3 is festival or expo. You've done this before probably. If you've never done one, start small and expand from there as you get known. Sell booth or display spaces, but let the festival be free for attendees because you want the bodies there. Allow food trucks, okay, or caterer tents in and take a percentage of their sales for the day. Okay, having run a senior center here in the area for a number of years, one thing that we did to start adding dollars to our budget was to have a senior expo. So when you hit a specialized population like that, it gets really good. We'd have a senior expo. So a lot of senior-oriented services would buy a booth. But where it got really good is when we started allowing caterers and food trucks to come and situate in our parking lot, and we took a percentage. We did a revenue share with them. And so we were able to sell lots of lunch plates and make some money off of that. Thrift store. We've done this before too, only more like a flea market type of thing. Find some space and open a thrift store to sell used items with proceeds coming to the organization. If you've got a good volunteer pool, you can do that. We've done it not as an ongoing thing, but as a like once a year fundraiser. We'd have a big major flea market type thing, and people would just bring us tons of furniture and little, ornaments and, just all kinds of things you would put in your home. You are going to need a lot of volunteers to organize these things, but you could also organize a clothing swap or a flea market type of event with the ticket sales. And so what we would do is just, we would advertise sort of an entry fee, like $5 come and fill a bag, or $10 come and fill a bag, something like that. Membership drives, if you are a membership type of organization, this is a given. If you're the kind of nonprofit that has your hands on that membership, plan a unique themed drive with a goal in mind, how much you want to raise. Activate current members to help and create an award structure for them. So the most sales, that it's like the golden and the, platinum and the, silver and all that kind of stuff. You can also hire someone to organize this for you with them getting a percentage of the commission. I've done both, and it's so much easier to hire somebody and pay them a commission to do it. I think the time that we hired the commission-based folks, we still made $3,000+ and we did it for several years running. The ones, and I would say, honestly, we probably did about the same when we tried to do it ourselves. So it just was worth it to us just to hire somebody to do it. Somebody who's used to doing that. So if you have the capability of doing that, that's great. If you're not a membership-based organization, think about becoming one. There's nothing saying if you're a nonprofit that you can't have a membership organization attached to you, okay? So here's number 6 is course or lunch education series. Can be online or in person, sell tickets or subscriptions, okay? So that's easy enough to do, and it would be relative to whatever it is that your nonprofit theme is. Okay, so you can educate, you can create a networking series around whatever it is that you're doing. That would be the lunch, lunchtime, even if you're not doing it in person, and create an event around that. So, and number 7 is a sports event. Best planned with a partnering organization and split the profits. Think of a golf tournament, foot race, table tennis, chess, or an adult basketball or kickball tournament. We've done these very successfully, particularly a golf tournament in my area. There's lots of golf courses around. We combined our efforts with a neighboring nonprofit organization, and we split the profits. And we became so popular that this went on for like 12 years, and each one of us made $6,000 a piece on it. And because we were using volunteers from both organizations, it was not a big, it was a big headache the first year. It was not so much. Year 2 through 12, it wasn't so. And I think they're still doing it. As a matter of fact, I'm not involved anymore with that organization, but I think they're still doing it. Number 8 would be dances and dinners. Sell dinner plates of whatever your favorite food is in that area. Think foods you can prepare a lot of without too much cost. Easy enough to do in our coastal areas. There would be like clam chowders. In areas where lots of big stews or something like chicken stew or something like that. Fire departments do it and they raise money doing that. So they're really popular in colder months. Chicken, pork, seafood plates, spaghetti. We've done lots of spaghetti dinners because it's cheap and easy to do a lot of. And so any kind of pasta dinners like that do really well. Just sell tickets to it. Include a dance or a fashion show so that you have plate for this much. For $5 you can get all you can eat spaghetti, and then but if you want to stay for the dance or the fashion show, it's now $15. So, or whatever you want to charge. It's just a bump up for that event. So one of my favorite things, because I've been a judge at these events, number 9 is food cook-offs. Invite the best cooks or chefs in the community to buy a booth and compete for the best of whatever it is that you determine should be the competition food. In my area, it's a chili cook-off. So it was like a big pot of chili that people that it's still going on probably now in its 30th or 40th year, and raises a ton of money for charities in the local area. So that once you get going with something like that, it just takes off, and it has has its own life. Silent auctions. This can be done as part of an event or on its own. Secure donated items, autographed books, sports memorabilia, gift certificates for nice dinners or a weekend at a hotel. Antiques or jewelry items do really well. Autographed books do really well too. Set a deadline for people to bid on the items. They will do so by placing their bid on a sheet by the item, or if you do it online, there's an online platform for that. Highest bidder wins, with proceeds going to the organization. So this is usually done in a room where people can see and touch the items, and where there'd be a sheet where they could write them down and write down the money that they would pay. But there are platforms online that you can make use of that would, you could upload pictures of the items. Now I have a person in my network that does these virtually and has items already for a silent auction. It's just like a revenue share situation with him. So if anybody is interested in doing something like that, let me know and I'll get you connected. He's actually a former 3-time Olympic athlete. So he's got some notoriety himself. So those are the first 10. Now we get to minimal planning and faster turnaround. So these ideas won't cost you as much in time and expense, and can be produced fairly quickly, depending on your partnering capabilities in your community. So the first one of this, number 11, is sell flowers, herbs, or vegetables. Plant a garden or have volunteers tend them, and prepare for sales. Tend the vegetables or the flowers for sale. There will be a little cost and effort up front until you get rolling, but you might engage some volunteer gardeners to offer some of their own produce that they're growing at home to sell, or you could offer them to set up a tent and sell from your location for a percentage of their sales. So you're basically renting them space to sell their produce. Keynote speaker events. Again, if you've got people in your network that are really good at this, that would donate their time, doesn't have to be a large event. Okay. And if you secure speakers that have something to sell, like a book or a webinar, you could easily sell tickets or become an affiliate of that. That has just happened to me. So I've gotten an affiliate deal with somebody who sells a course, type of thing. So if you can get a speaker that also has something you can sell, you can make money with them. So so you can easily sell tickets enough to cover a lunch and bring income to the organization. So think about who might bring in the most attendees. You can figure out how you can do this virtually too, like I said. So number 13 is drawings and raffles. Sell tickets, set a deadline, draw a ticket, and the winner gets half the money that is collected. We call this a 50-50. So raffle off one or more items. Once you set the deadline, the ticket is drawn and the winner gets the item. You can decide if they have to be present to win or not. And you can do this kind of thing online really easily. I've seen it done. So check your organization's policies or local laws to ensure compliance so that you're not selling something you shouldn't be selling online. So that was number 13. This one I like especially well for schools. It's number 14, organization website advertising. Now, you would think that if you've got a website that's drawing traffic, that advertising might be a cool thing to do, but it also might be a headache. But if you have a well-viewed website, or if you put out a newsletter or magazine that gets some attention, sell some advertising space. For schools, it's really good because you can target the advertising to a particular audience, because you've got mostly mothers or parents that are looking at that website. So, if the permissions are granted from the school to do so, then you can certainly add to your income base doing that. And they do that in the United States. There's actually an organization that will put together the right ad to the right market in whatever school it is. So think about where you can include the advertising. Another favorite partner, charity days. Partner with some businesses in your community that sell something every day. Ask them to donate a small percentage of their sales for one day to your charity. Work to promote them and send more patrons to them on that day. And restaurants are a really good choice. And one thing that I added to this on LinkedIn is if you are attached to a subject matter that has an awareness day associated with it, like, International Women's Day or National, Human Trafficking Day, or, National Diabetes Day or American Heart Association Day. If there's anything like that that you can attach yourself to, then you want to do this kind of event on that day or on that week, during that week. All right. So now we're moving into utilizing every asset that you have. This is where volunteers and specialized expertise come into play, and maybe specialized populations come into play. And so number 16 is a specialized program. Create a youth or a senior citizen program that runs for a few months for participants to engage in a calendar of activities geared toward a specific theme that is relevant to your organization. So you might think about anything that has to do with entrepreneurship, healthcare, wellness is big, really big right now. Caregiving, safety. Caregiving is also big. Just had an interview with somebody yesterday about that. Safety, personal or career development, writing and creative workshops, etc. So what you want to do is secure sponsors that relate to that theme, okay, to whatever that theme is. So you're going to get sponsors that'll provide some financial support for you to do whatever program it is you're doing. Now, I've done this with youth development and two times over in two different communities, and it's worked out really well. One of them still running for 25 years. So when you get good with the right sponsors, they love you. All right. And then also with, from the senior standpoint, we've done caregiving workshops over a period of time. We've done health and wellness, types of programs over a period of time, but it has to do kind of with your sort of your specialized, population. A cleanup day, plan a cleanup day around the community with volunteer participants, securing sponsors to pledge a small amount for each bag of trash they collect. Okay, so money collected goes to your organization. And that's number 17. Number 18 is kind of like that. It's a youth task squad. We've done this before. Coordinate a group of youth volunteers to be hired as a group to perform tasks for people like cleaning up property, collecting vegetables from the garden, cleaning up yards, cleaning windows. So household types of things like that will help out. Largely in a population of people that just don't have the mobility to do these things, and they're willing to pay for those types of tasks. The youth volunteers get paid with a portion given back to the organization. So this is a great partnership. So if there's like youth groups at local churches, or maybe on a college campus or something like that, you can partner with them, and then the youth get part of it and you get the other part of the support that's given. So number 19 is food deliveries or transportation services to homebound elderly. So similar to number 18, for the right organization, it might make sense to offer these services that could be subscribed to by the customer. So unlike I'm going to pay this youth group $50 to clean up my yard and do some other tasks around the house, that would be a one-time thing. What we're talking about now is a subscription service, so that they could subscribe to deliveries or transportation. That is the number one problem that I've seen in the United States, is where you get elderly that are homebound getting anywhere and getting anything done, anything picked up, just getting their meds picked up, or getting groceries, anything like that has become a real challenge for them. And it's really very, very difficult. So they don't mind paying a little bit to get some of these things done. So number 20 is authorized organization for services. So in some areas, government agencies will contract with facilities in a community. So to be a collection or a distribution point for something, I know for licensing and tax, so that they don't have to open their own localized agency, they might, like with the Yorgis Foundation, Alina, it could be that maybe a local government entity would contract with you to do something that would be of a certifications or licensing or anything like that, if you had a facility that was there to do so. I know of an organization here locally that does some trucking license for the local port, that transports things in and out of our area. When I ran the Chamber of Commerce, we served as the area's tourism and development sort of place. So basically all we did was hand out brochures, and we got $3,000 a month for doing it. So you never know when, having that little bit of space can help you out. So that was number 20. Number 21 is Adopt a Person project. If your organization deals with helping a particular population, whether in a healthcare setting, child, or senior citizen environment, raising funds could be easier if you utilize an adoption format. Example would be $150, something like that. Opens up one scholarship for youth to participate in our 6-month development program. Or $25 a month allows you to adopt an animal space at a rehabilitation center. So you can also use naming rights in a similar way. An example of that would be for $150, we will name this building, room, college, fountain, sculpture, or walkway for you, and your name will appear on a sign that is posted nearby. Now, I actually made this happen for the local aquarium that we had, and a real estate agency that wanted their name everywhere they could have it put. And so what we did was, for I think a $5,000 donation, we had their name put on a brass sign that was in one of the display areas in the aquarium. And that was a nonprofit organization. So they were able to get $5,000 from them. And because we did that, they learned how to do this really well. And they sold bricks for $100 each to put around their fountain outside. They named their, they cleaned up like an outdoor pathway that led through these beautiful, wooded grounds. And so they named that for somebody. Got money off of that. So they learned how to do this really well after we started the ball rolling. So that could be easy income for you to do. And it could be annual if you take it to a certain reasonable level and say, as long as you're paying us $150 a month, this sign stays out there with your name. And when you don't, we're going to sell it to somebody else. So that could be the way to do that. Number 22 is challenge-based event. Create a fitness, literacy, or other challenge with an overall goal attached. Erin knows about this one. You can charge a small amount for registering a participant, registering to participate. And if registered participants meet the overall goal, then the president of the organization or a local politician will have to shave his head, like Erin had to do, or do something outrageous or funny. And then you want to make sure that you capture the moment with media present, and you want to sell tickets to the event of when it happens, because everybody's going to want to see somebody shave their head or kiss a pig. So Erin, what was the goal, and why did you have to shave your head? Because they met the goal.
So our girls, after pool play, it's a softball tournament, they were dead last and just no momentum. And I just told the girls if they won the tournament, I would shave my head, or they could shave my head. And you'd be surprised
how motivating
what things inspire. So yeah, they just kept saying it throughout the tournament play, get ready to get your head shaved. And sure enough,
He did. Yeah, he showed up bald one day. I remember seeing it. So I have seen the kiss a pig situation where a lot of principals from schools and things like that if the students met a goal, that you can do that, but you can actually make that a fundraiser. So the 23 is sell data or reports. This is also one of my favorite ones. If your organization has members or works with a specialized population or access, Alina, I know yours does, or has access to trends or industry specific information, you can generate reports of interest or compile data that would be sold to subscribers. Actually, know a nonprofit that's doing this and doing it really well. They put out a subscription-based report, and it's entrepreneurship based, but it's aimed at Africa. And what they're doing is pulling up numbers of startups in Africa. And then because they work with a lot of them, then they have that opportunity to do so. They sell that report for like $200 a month to several corporate subscribers who are interested in that, because they're interested in the numbers of businesses that are popping up and what industries they're associated with in Africa. So, when you start looking at the population you serve and how many numbers, and I know, Alina, from the standpoint of maternal health, I know that you have numbers there. and just keeping up with those numbers and validating them would be a key thing. But here's the opportunity you have to get with a university or partner with another NGO and to make sure that the numbers are right. And a lot of the NGOs that actually validate where money's going, like from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the UN, could be happy to connect with another nonprofit that's actually boots on the ground, that's actually hitting that population. So those reports could be really valuable. Rent space is number 24. You could partner with a company or an organization that might appreciate renting a room or other space from you, especially if you relate, if you complement each other, the two different organizations. When I was at the senior center, we did rent space to another companion organization that had to do with senior housing and that sort of thing. So if you had space, that's also an idea. Now, take that a little bit further. And what we also did, because we had the space to do so, indoors and outdoors, is to rent for birthday parties and weddings and anything like that. Everybody had to bring their own decorations. They had to clean up and everything, but we would have the rental, paperwork already set to go. We'd have it on our website if they wanted to rent. And we made quite a bit of money every year off of doing that. That's 24. 25 is consulting and advising and counseling. Just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you can't make money doing things like that. So running a nonprofit comes with some skills. So think about the skills that you do have: leadership skills, budgeting, if there's something that is your sweet spot. So any kind of skill that you may have or somebody on your staff may have that can be turned into an opportunity to create an added service and connect to your mission will be a great boon to your budget. I know in some cases, I don't know where it would be, what it would be like in other countries, but we would make sure that one of our staff members had the capability of being a notary public, which basically means that you're validating the signatures on documents for people. And in certain circumstances like that, where you're running if you have a facility where you've got people in and out, makes sense to have somebody like that on staff. Now they get their little piece of money, but you also are retaining some yourself. So if there's any advising capability or counseling capability through what you're doing, then think about how you can turn that into a service, whether it's a B2B service or a B2C service. So you want to promote and sell that service. So the tips that I have of this, and I'm going to turn it over to Aaron, would be to always make sure your organization is meeting its publicized mission and stay within the legal guidelines of fundraising. I do know in the United States, you can't really do a raffle where you have alcohol. So you've got to be careful about that. As a nonprofit, it is key that you not stockpile resources. So while you can make some money, it needs to be allocated in the budget for purposes of running that nonprofit. So just make sure that you stay good with that. Your budget needs to reflect only the expenses pretty much that relate specifically to your operation and its future sustainability. So you can actually have some money saved for a building or for something like that. But if it looks like you're making money, they're going to consider you a nonprofit. They meaning in the United States, that's IRS, but in other countries, I'm sure there are federal laws about stuff like that. Make sure your board of directors or advisory board is involved in any fundraising decisions and are participating as much as possible. Make it a priority to connect with a diverse group of resources in your community. Be thinking about partnerships in your organization that makes sense. I always tell people media. You need media people in your community that love you, and you need to think about partnerships that would make sense for whether that be other nonprofits, whether that be other corporations, whether that be the Chamber of Commerce, wherever you are, or whoever that may be. So get to know your partners well before determining the fit. Find someone active in the International Rotary or your local Rotary Club. They do a lot worldwide, and they like to give money to people. One of the organizations I co-founded actually was a recipient of some Rotary Club money recently. So I can tell you, I've got probably about 5 members right now of my Frontrunners League that are very active in the Rotary Club. And they are active because they know that there could be a trickle down to some organization they're affiliated with. And it may not be their organization, but some organization they care about. So find a Rotary Club, get connected to them. Create a menu of opportunities so that potential partners, donors can know how to interact with you. That's sort of the last tip I have. If you feel like you are lacking in partnerships, start thinking about the opportunities you have, the 3 or 4 different ways people can partner with you. And that way you can start to kind of expand and create those partnerships that will, if you don't have the idea, they do for how to raise money, and they can be of help to you in that regard. So Aaron, I'm turning it over to you for grants. So you're up.
So what you don't realize is that I was taking notes and getting some tips and stuff. So, I'll just kind of dovetail into some of the things that I was going to bring up anyway, because that's the beauty about you, Mary. You don't realize that you're kind of a mentor to me. So I just kind of soak everything in.
Oh, well, let me stop you before we go, because I was going to do this and I forgot to do it. If you guys are interested in the recording of this, because we are recording this, we will put this on, we will post this probably over the weekend, but on the website, www.frontrunnersinnovate.com, if you go to events and then go to the drop down on the resources and click that, you're going to see the sort of flyer that we did for this webinar. And if you click on that, everything I just shared is there. So you can see it right there. Everything Aaron is going to talk to you about is also there. So you've got handouts that are downloadable, printable. Just if you're going to print them out and share them with anybody, make sure you keep the credentials, everything intact. Any logos, there you go. He's got it right there. Any logos, anything like that, keep it intact. So Aaron, I am going to back off now. I just wanted to make sure I shared that. So
no, I'm glad you did. This is the perfect segue. Regardless of whether you are going for a grant or you're trying to do your own internal fundraising, if you will, one of the most powerful things that I've learned in this process is the power of relationships with people. People don't know that you care until they know that you care. And I mean that wholeheartedly, because if people know that you're just asking for money, they're just going to kind of blow you off. But if they know that you're genuine, they know that they have seen your work, they know that you are a good person in the community, that is going to be very, very sincere when they're making a more serious decision with that. And it also makes a difference when you're writing grants too. You also have to understand things like the goals. What are people seeing in terms of goals? Is it just the money, or is there a purpose behind the money? And that's one of the most forefront things when you're writing grants, is what kind of track record are you having when you're asking for high dollar amounts? Are they just seeing that it's going to be spent very meticulously, or are they going to see that it's going to be spent very loosely? And that also kind of wraps inside a tight budget. You really need to have your estimates up front. You really need to have a really good idea of what you're looking at in terms of personnel power, what can be volunteered versus what needs to be outsourced. What kind of equipment do you need? Because some grants will tell you in and out specifically, we're not going to pay for XYZ, or this grant is exclusive for ABC. And having that budget already locked into place helps you determine that eligibility component with it. Grant writers should also keep in mind that there's a style to it. And a lot of people write passively. In other words, they use the form of is and be when they really need to use action verbs. Like the researcher will investigate this particular process with this, or our research team will do this process, and making it very present tense. As if the evaluator is right there being in the process and can actually picture themselves with it. Grants are usually thought about in terms of a program evaluation. And what people don't realize, a program evaluation is a process in which you determine, have you met the goals? What are you doing to ensure that you're staying on timeline? Are you staying in place? And and kind of matching up to what you put down on paper. And it starts with the common goals, and what are you doing with your resources currently in place? What are you doing in terms of making sure everything is ethical, making sure everything is in terms of potentially what's the word? Not um, I can't even pronounce it. My tongue is tied up. Done over and over again. I sound like a Porky Pig. But that is extremely important because they want to see you being successful. And I've been in situations and grants where they have not, thank you, reproducible, where they have not been successful, or parts of the grants have not been successful, but that's okay because they can see that you tried with integrity. And when you keep up with monitoring some of the things in the grants, people want to know, where are you in the process? Is there a reason why things have slowed down? And they get it. People have been out sick, or if you're looking for technical items, they know that they could be up to a year delay in getting some of this equipment. But keeping the people who have the strings to the purse informed is going to continue to build that sustainable relationship with people. It's also important when you're writing the grant for the first time, ask the right questions to people. Not just saying, is this the right track, but when you're not sure about something, get some clarification on things, because it doesn't hurt. And it also shows that you're really trying to sustain some of those boundaries that they've already established. They'll give you a little bit more information quite often than if you just assume things. And I've always picked up the phone. And rather than hiding behind an email, I want them to attach my voice and just say, hey, look, do you mind if I follow up with any other emails if I have any questions? And a lot of times they're like, no, go for it. And that actually still builds credibility to you, but also develops that relationship with people, because people empower themselves with the document and the person attached to them. So, that in a nutshell are some of the things that I've learned in the process of it. And in the perfect world, we would love to get grants 100% of the time, but it is an art to it. You also have to be realistic in thinking about, what kind of money are you trying to seek versus what type of grant are you trying to get? The Coca-Cola grant, for example, or the Bill Gates grants are very, very sought after. So, in that situation, not only are you going to have to know somebody with an inside track, but you're also going to have to write basically a near perfect to perfect grant. Whereas if you find somebody in the community who they are a mom and pop shop, if you will, or if they are somebody who is of a well-standing in the community, and you have an inside connection to do that, that's going to open up, I think, a greater opportunity. And to give you an example with that, in a school district I work for, I partner with Alcoa Helmet, and they do a lot of metals and turbine creations. And part of what I did was I requested $40,000 to build a 3D printing lab. And through that process, of course, they wanted to know why, and, not just for the tools and stuff. And I said, why don't you come over? And it was after I sent the presentation to that, I follow up with it and said, hey, I appreciate even the consideration, even if I don't get awarded this grant, I would love to be a partner with you. And of course, that kind of opened their eyes a little bit, like, what did you have in mind? And I said, come on over, let's talk. And sure enough, they did. They took me up on it. And when they saw what I was doing, why I was doing it, and where I was going to close workforce development skill gap issues, it became so much easier, because they came back and said, this is what the grant writing people wanted from our company. Do you mind fixing this? And I just said, no, just tell me where else I need to do it. And within that day, I fixed it back. A week later, we got awarded the grant for it. So, that's why I cannot stress the relationship component enough to it. When you do write grants, make sure you give yourself plenty of time to look at it. Give yourself plenty of time to review just the budget piece to it. Give yourself time to write the actual press release, because what you write in the press release is what's going to go out to people. And part of that verbiage needs to be copied into the success of the grant, because you want to write as if you have successfully been awarded it. And there's also the power of positive thinking in that component too. You know, trying to think here. When you are thinking about your organization, how does the organization look to the grant writing committee? Do they see them as somebody that has had problems in the past? Do they see a very clear, articulate vision? Because that needs to be dovetailed into the grant, because they are going to award things that are of strategic value to them. You know, we want to make sure that it includes some of the power verbiage, the action verbs, the statistics that they're looking for. But you also want to be very simple in approach. Don't write something that's going to be very high level, if you will. Keep it simple, avoid jargons, and definitely use multiple paragraphs and white space. You know, that is going to definitely make sure that that is going to be easily read and accessed. Before you submit it, make sure that you have a committee review it, because everybody's going to catch something different. If it has a character limit or a word limit, make sure you stay to that limit, because you can be eliminated if you're one character off. I normally go into Microsoft Word, and then I just very easily see that I'm within the character spacing, and then I will check it into the essay itself. A lot of times it's a portal based, and if I notice that I've gone over the allotment on the web based, I'll go back and tweak my essay there. That has saved me a couple of elimination times with that. Make sure that your business department has also been in align with the grant process, because you don't want to say you're going to go buy something and then find out your budget department won't let you do that. When you also do that, make sure that they are helping you vet the process of procurement. When I've written grants before, we had to write a grant for components to a wind tunnel, and there was just one exclusive company that I had dealt with for years, because I know I could trust them. I got a great deal, but the business department didn't know anything about them in particular. So I wrote it in the grant saying this specific company whom we partner with for years. And that basically gave me the sole source justification to unlock the doors, if you will, and accelerate the process of the purchase for that. So, you know, little tricks of the trade like that can definitely go a long way. Make sure you print a copy of it, as well as save maybe a PDF of it, because things happen. You know, emails never get received. Submissions never get entered. And what you want to do is make sure that you're staying on top of it. In the event that your grant does not get awarded, it's okay. And the reason I say it's okay is see if you can get the feedback from the committee. Sometimes they will, sometimes you won't. But more importantly is find out when that cycle happens again. And when you find out when they have awarded people, find out what some of those people who got the awards were. Was it for a different kind of organization, or was it truly that maybe you didn't have a really unique idea that they were looking for? Go back and reflect it and revise it. And then when the next grant cycle comes again, go for it. You know, you keep going and going and going. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, when you keep applying, I've had this situation happen as I've actually wrote 2 grants at once for the same thing. And consequently, I was blessed to win both of them. And I just reached out to one of the 2 and I just said, to be honest, I was not expecting to be awarded this grant. I'm humbled. Is it okay if I alter the grant to do XYZ instead of what I originally written it for? They were like, no problem. Please, please go right ahead. Send us a little adjustment, if you will, and go ahead, because they want to give out the money away. And that's part of their tax write-off and expenditure purposes, accounting process as well. So as Mary said, there's a bunch of things that we could probably build a whole series of in terms of course development with it. But if you think about in terms of questionnaire and a checklist, it's on Mary's website, but I've also included a grant funding template for you. This helps you kind of lay the framework for success, and it will allow you to kind of interchange some of the things easily, so that as you continue to apply for things, hopefully you're not spending hours and hours and hours, hopefully just minutes, making the fine tunings of things. So this kind of encompasses the majority of the process. It's not going to cover everything, but about 80 to about 85% of it is very common information, if you will. So definitely feel free to utilize that resource, and definitely I would suggest doing both as you look for grants, but I would also look for other ideas such as Mary had said, because that's going to be quick, easy cash, I think, compared to writing grants, because the more income you get, more revenue you get coming in, I think the faster you'll be able to accelerate those dreams and the visions that you have within your organization.
True. Like I say, some of these will be quick fixes, although that's not what we aim for. We hope that you do them, you get very successful at them, and then they become annual pieces of your budget.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned Coca-Cola, so I wanted to bring this up, and you guys are just getting this really good tidbit right here. I actually have somebody in my network who's getting regular money from Coca-Cola.
Wow.
And yes, yes, and has been for some years. And I just interviewed her. Her interview is up on my website, frontrunnersinnovate.com. Her name is Irma Sanchez, and she's a Latin American gal living in California. And she is the Silicon Valley representative for the Women's Economic Forum. And from what I understand, and if you look at her interview, there are lots of ways you can connect with that organization that don't cost you anything. There's like 3 or 4 different layers up underneath there, and you can register yourself on there, which I plan to do. I just haven't had a chance to do it. So Alina and Monique and Faustina, definitely check that out. And then connect. Irma's awesome. Connect with her, let her know that I sent you, and ask her whatever questions you want to ask her that might help you find ways to create some kind of flow, partnership or flow that helps you there. So because she says they're trying to expand the Women's Economic Forum around here. So definitely do that. Check in with her. So there's that. I wanted to, since there's only a few of us here, and I know Faustina doesn't feel good enough to be on camera or really talk, but no, Monique, take yourself off of mute. Monique is in Paris. And Monique, yeah, there she is. She's from the United States. Please meet Faustina and Alina. And Alina's in Poland. Faustina, I forgot where you're from. Can you put it did you put it in the chat? I don't know if you did or not, if you still hear me. But anyway, Monique is head of the Wells International Foundation. She does 100 things. Literally. And I always kind of think of her my arts and culture and women's empowerment gal. And Monique, Alina, her organization is the Yorgis Foundation. I'm partnered with her and her organization. And I'd say maternal health is the main focus, but it encompasses a lot of other things that have to do to kind of wrap around women's empowerment and women's health and wellness and all these sorts of things, and in a lot of these marginalized countries of the world. So I wanted you guys to meet each other, all of you, and also Aaron, who is Dr. Aaron Smith, one of my buddies, one of my partners, and just to be able to say hello. So, Monique, why don't you share just a couple of lines or 2 or 3 lines about what you're doing right now, so Alina gets a fix on that. Could be a potential partnership right here.
Absolutely. So thank you, Mary, for introducing me and for asking me to come off. I didn't know if we were going to be, if participants were speaking, or if it was just going to be you and Aaron. And I've met Aaron before too. And yes, I just so appreciate what you are doing with this this particular webinar and just in general. So the Wells International Foundation is 6.5 going on 7 years old now. We're domiciled in Houston, Texas, although I have run the organization since its inception from Paris, France. Right now, for women's empowerment, we have just kicked off as of last month our L Cube Alliance membership program for women leaders. And that is it's a holistic support group for women who are near or at, quote unquote, the top of their game, who are wanting to magnify their current impact in the world, whether that be professionally or within their community. And we are doing masterminding, what we call the Feminine Mastermind and the Feminine Network. And we just had our first Feminine Network last night, and it was absolutely fantastic. So that's what we're doing for women's empowerment right now. We also have, we have 5 areas that we are active in. Women's empowerment is one. We have the arts, we have STEAM education, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We have travel and study abroad, and we have literacy. And we're primarily focused on child literacy. And for our STEAM initiative, we have a very successful program that's just over a year old. We celebrated our first anniversary for that in June. It's called the Youth Veterinarian Initiative. And we are introducing the field of veterinary medicine and other animal-focused professional activities to youth who are underrepresented, or I should say, underrepresented minorities in the field. We have in the United States, over 90% of veterinarians are white, less than 2% are African American, and we are reaching out to youth to expose them to this field so that they can understand that that is a possible career option for them, and we are introducing them to African American and Latinx professionals who are active in the field so that they can see themselves in that field. So those are the big things right now. We're getting ready to start a book club and that program for the Youth Veterinarian Initiative that will kick off in September. And we're busting out. We're busting out all over.
She has been really wonderful with me. I've done a lot of mentoring with young girls, especially over the last year or so. And I brought Monique into the mix, and she is still communicating with my mentees and still giving them opportunities to share their talents, which is fantastic. So I appreciate that. Alina, you want to give a couple of lines about Yorgos? You're on mute.
Yes, I'm trying. Okay,
Okay, there you go.
Okay, hello once again. So we are the NGO registered in Poland, headquartered in Poland, but working for and in Africa and developing countries of African continent. This year we registered our branch also in Malawi and opened our first African office in Lilongwe and employed our wonderful, exceptional regional director, Moses Busher. He couldn't join. He wanted to join this webinar, but he couldn't. He's now in Zomba on his way with the second part of safe delivery kits just to be brought to Cheesy Island. By the way, Mary, this is information for you because it is just like a result of your fundraiser, birthday fundraiser on Facebook. So he's working. But anyway, so far we have worked in Tanzania, Uganda, Nigeria. Yes, now we are extending to Malawi, Sierra Leone as well. So we focus mainly on saving lives at birth, improving maternal healthcare, reducing the maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate, yes, through improving the standards of perinatal care. So how we do it, we just try to equip maternity wards, especially in rural areas, in remote health centers, like, for example, in Chihuahua districts that we visited yesterday, that Moses visited yesterday. We distribute safe delivery kits, so-called mama kits, for women that cannot afford, but in many countries, they are just required to bring to the hospital the main essential tools that provide hygienic environment for the childbirth. So we just work with these women and with health centers, with rural clinics. But of course, we also provide trainings for medical personnel, for midwives, for nurses, for health workers, sometimes also, if it is needed, for so-called traditional birth attendants. Well, what else? We also support education, especially on, in communities that are, when people live below the line of poverty, as it was in Sierra Leone this year. So every year we organize a collection of school supplies here in Poland. We don't buy it because we also we want to just like talk to our Polish children and just to teach them to share and teach them to just, teach them something about children in other countries. Yes, to tell them how it is in the African countries, but the real picture, not the stereotype. Yes, just to let them think about others. That's it. And this year we managed to ship almost 3 tons of school supplies, school furniture, and other goods for children living in Cambia district and Freetown in Sierra Leone. And these goods almost have been already distributed. So we also conduct programs tackling period poverty, like for example last year in Tanzania. So everything we do, it's all around women, children, girls. Yes, the women's empowerment as well. Okay. So this is what we do.
Fantastic. We're going to excuse Aaron right now. He's got to go. He's got an anniversary trip he's got to get to. So
sorry, guys.
We'll excuse him, but I wanted to share. Faustina sent me a message, and it was direct to me, so it wasn't to everybody else. She's kind of introducing herself. And it says, living in Irving, Texas, born in DC, grew up in New York. Family is from Nigeria. Passionate about social impact, co-founder and executive board member of the Black Women's Wall Street, Inc. Focused on Black women startups, starting a public benefit corporation focused on helping business owners who focus on our community and need a small business generalist, operations specialist, technical assistance provider. And she also says she would love to connect with you, Elena. She said her sister lived in Poland, but she never got to go there.
Oh, really?
All right. So send her a little private message so she can get that, now in the chat. We're so sorry, Faustina, that you're not feeling up to par. And, I think this is great. I think we should have like a girls meeting again. And maybe Monica can incorporate all of us in her next thing, and we can broaden the group a little bit. But this is the best part of anything, is when you can network a little bit. So who is looking for grants? I mean, Monique, are you looking for grants? Okay, and Elena, grants or funds?
Yes, I am
everything.
Grant looker, grants researcher, grant writer, and everything. So you mentioned Coca-Cola Foundation. Our project was rejected. Just
you gotta use the template. All of that is at my website on that webpage. So he's provided the template.
I know it is not an easy task, but what I can say is that we are quite well. We have good skills, and we are quite well experienced and grant proposals and writing the grant proposals. But it is always a game. Yes, there's a competition. So very often the feedback that we get is, your project proposal is perfect. We really love it, but thank you. Next time. So what you mentioned, and Aaron also told, I just wanted to tell that this is also my opinion, that grants and grant opportunities and money that come from grants, it is good just to conduct projects big projects, but
Mhm.
each organization should find also a source of additional income, especially for, all payments and bills, yes?
Yeah.
Renting
Yeah.
the office, electricity,
Yeah.
etc. That we
Well-
have to pay on monthly basis, etc. Because very often grant givers just refuse giving
They don't want
money.
to pay admin.
Yes.
They do not want to pay admin. They want it to go to.
So this is a challenge that we also just have to face. And from Bratislava, I attended NGO leadership workshop in Bratislava, and was also one day was all about fundraising and all about just creating a source of revenue.
I know it's that is tough with the grants. I see Candu has come back and joined us, and Monique has told me that Faustina, even though I see you, Faustina and Alina on the chat, she says you're not showing up on the chat for everybody. So what I'll do,
I also cannot see her. I also cannot see. I can see only Aaron and you, Mary. By the way, in the chat. I don't know why.
Okay, I don't either. But let me
nobody
see.
else is in the menu, so-called, to send.
Okay.
I cannot even choose everyone. Just like
That's interesting. Maybe it's just for me. I don't know what happened with this, but anyway, what I'll tell you guys is I'll send an email out to everybody and introduce everybody after this, so that you'll have each other's contact information. And definitely Faustina and Alina, connect up.
I'll find Faustina on LinkedIn.
Yeah. One thing that I have learned when I was talking to the gal who runs the IKEA Foundation a couple of years ago, is every year the foundation, especially if you're working with a foundation like Coca-Cola or something like that, every year the foundation board gets together and determines their focus for that year. And it's not the same focus every year. Like the year that I talked to her was refugees. And then it's changed. So they change it just about every year. So, and if you're just kind of shooting blind going, I'm just going to ask for a grant for whatever, if you don't know that that's not in their, their focus for that year, you're probably, even as good as it may be, you're not going to get, greenlit. So being able to have somebody who knows that would be pretty good. I would highly suggest to find out from Irma, and Kenu came in, so is not aware, but Irma Sanchez, who, you can see clearly on my website, check out her, her interview. And if you guys want to meet her, I'm happy to set up a conversation with all of us and her, and just us, pretty much all of us and her, and let her tell you how she did that, how she orchestrated that. It could be somebody she knew who knew somebody, or it could be the fact that, they just were looking for Latin American women's, women-owned organizations, or women organizations in the United, who knows? It could have been just she fit the right mold at the time. But the thing is, she sustained this over a period of time. So she's still fitting whatever it is they were looking for. And the funny thing is, the Women's Economic Forum is one of the largest women's organizations in the world, networking organizations in the world, business organizations. And it is headquartered out of India. So it's not headquartered here in the United States. She just happens to be their Silicon Valley representative. This I will tell you, she started her sort of climb into women's empowerment and that kind of thing through her local chamber of commerce. And that chamber was taking a trip that included Egypt and some other places. How that chamber could afford that, I don't know, except for she's near Silicon Valley. That's how. That's how. But she went on that trip, and that's what started her on the path to what's going on here. So she might have ended up at the Chamber of Commerce with somebody from Coca-Cola in that area. So who knows? But let's let her tell us how she did it. If you're up for that, I will bring her into the mix, and we'll set up a little private conversation with her, and we'll gather some intel on that. But so somebody who's been successful at getting that kind of a grant, or whatever it is, sponsorship over the years. She hasn't told me how much it was, but does it matter when you've got Coca-Cola? If they send you $1,000 check, are you going to turn it down?
No.
We can start from a small grant from Coca-Cola, Monique, right?
As long as you can put their logo on your.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So There's other opportunities around that I get wind of every now and again, and little bits and pieces that might be useful too. So it might be good if we just kind of, who knows, kind of keep something like this going. But the thing that I've learned is my business partner is in the healthcare space, and he's in Indianapolis. He has his hands on a company that makes hand sanitizers. And they're local to there, but they were going to give, and they may still be doing it, Walgreens, I think it's Walgreens, the pharmacy in the United States called Walgreens. It's a chain that's all over the United States. $10,000 to be able to connect basically connect their logos, so that one could claim the Walgreens, sort of endorsement on the other. And Walgreens they were going to have all these hand sanitizers in their, in their stores and everything. Well, I told my business partner, because he says it's not sure that it's been worked out yet or not. I said, tell him to hold on to that 10,000 if it doesn't work out. We might be able to find somewhere else for them to be famous with.
Because we are ready.
Yeah, we might be able to help them find another way to do that. Well, it's not specifically women's health, but when you start talking about sanitized births, and I know you give them gloves and things like that in your kits and your mama kits, Alina. But there could be, some opportunity there and I think this is a women-owned company that he's associated with. So anyway, I can connect some dots as I start hearing these things around. And so, ladies, be thinking about, how we might be able to help each other with some of these fundraising and grant seeking sorts of things. I had together a group, I think it was earlier this year, that was looking for investments. Okay. And they decided to meet. It was started out as a webinar like this. And that group decided to meet for several more months. And there were people there looking for money, and there were people there that could give money. So we had some investor types that were in that group and some that were seeking money. And mostly the people that were seeking money were seeking large sums of investment. Okay. So that went on for several months. And, then, I think during the holiday break or whatever, we just didn't come back to it. But, it could be that we could end up in that same sort of scenario here with people who are maybe some grant providers or investor types that are interested in what you guys are doing. It's just a matter of finding the right, connecting points with everybody. But let's just start with Irma. I'm sure she'd love to talk to us and tell us how she got that going on with Coca-Cola. So if everybody's good, I will send out an email with everybody's email address, so you all will have each other's email address, and I'll loop in Irma after I have a chance to kind of let her know what's up. Okay.
That sounds fantastic.
Fantastic. Awesome, everybody. Thank you very much. Connect with each other once you get each other's email address. I'm sorry that it didn't work out on the chat here, but we got it. We got it on the back end. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later somewhere.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm seeing Faustina still communicating with me here. So yes, very good, Faustina. Yeah, let's continue this conversation on email and then in another group. Fantastic. Thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.